Alright, here we are back with Mr. B's math class. We're looking at 10.3, modeling and solving two-step equations today that are typically x over a plus b is c is what you're going to see for all of these. So your student outcome today is just I can solve a two-step equation. Maybe I should actually fix that up here for you. Just throw can in there because of my wonderful grammar. I can solve a two-step equation involving division. So let's look at our first example here. We've got, now you can see it's a little bit different than last time, x over 2 plus 3 is 6. So that's why in that first slide you saw the x over a plus b is c. The x is your variable, and then these are just the numbers that you'll find different on each question. Okay? Now let me just get rid of that. Now, I'm pretty bad at this. There we go, it's kind of fun. Alright, so this is very similar to 10.2 when we solved the two-step equations there. Because this method is the only method, and it's isolate the variable by applying the opposite operation. So you're kind of getting used to that now in Unit 10, because that's what we're doing a lot here. To get rid of that, isolate that variable, to get it on its own, to get this x on its own, we're finding that we've always got to do the opposite operation. And the other important thing we got to remember is always what you do to one side, you do to the other. And you've got to make sure you're doing that, because that's going to be this entire unit is that right there. Balancing your thing by doing what you do to one side, you do to the other. So let's look at our question now. We've got x over 2 plus 3 equals 6. So it says in our step 1, deal with our addition first, just like last time. We're going to ignore that division there, ignore those rules of BEDMAS. We're going to deal with our addition first. So we've got right now x over 2 plus 3 equals 6. Well, to deal with that 3 first, we've got to do the opposite. So the opposite of adding 3 would be subtracting 3. And what we do to one side, we do to the other, so we're going to subtract it off there. 3 minus 3 is 0, so now we've got x over 2 equals, and 6 minus 3 is 3. Now we've taken care of that addition. Now we're going to move on to the division we have left. So we now have x over 2 equals 3. To get rid of that 2, we've got to do the opposite operation. Well, the opposite of dividing is multiplying. So we're going to multiply the top there, the x, by 2. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other, which means that over here, we're also going to multiply by 2. Now when we look at it, we've got a multiplying 2 and a dividing 2, which in itself just cross out to give us x. And when we do the work on the other side, we've got 3 times 2 is 6. So now we know x is 6. And that's where we can do our last step on the next, which is just checking our answer. So we know that x equals 6. Our question was x over 2 plus 3 equals 6. When we substitute in that 6 for x, we get 6 over 2 plus 3 equals 6. 6 divided by 2 gives us 3, plus 3 equals 6. 6 equals 6, and we've got our answer. Let's try an example with you guys. Okay, so our question here is x over negative 5 plus 6 equals 4. So what you can do right here is pause it, give it a shot, and then play when you're ready to check out the solution. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So according to our step 1, we've got to deal with our addition first. We've got to get rid of that first. Well, to get rid of that, we've got to do the opposite operation. So here, since it's a positive 6, you're adding 6, we're going to go the opposite, which is subtract 6. And what we do to one side, we got to do to the other. So we're going to subtract 6 off that side as well. So 6 minus 6 will just cross out. And now we're left with x over negative 5 equals 4 minus 6 is going to leave us with minus 2, because there's more of the minus 6 than there is of the positive 4. So now we have minus 2. Now we can move on to our second part, which is going to be dealing with the division here. So when we look at here, we've got x dividing by negative 5. Well, the opposite of dividing is going to be multiplying. So we're going to multiply the top by our negative 5. And what we do to one side, we've got to do to the other. So we're going to multiply this side by negative 5. So when we look at it, negative 5 divided by negative 5 is going to be positive 1, which is just going to be x, so that negative is not gone. And negative 2 times negative 5 is going to be 10. And because it's a negative times a negative, it's going to be a positive. So we got positive 10. So we now know that x is positive 10. So if we were to check our work, we'd have positive 10 divided by negative 5 plus 6 equals 4. Positive 10 divided by negative 5 gives us negative 2 plus 6 equals 4. Negative 2 plus 6 gives us 4. 4 equals 4. We've got ourselves our answer. Okay? So it's important to note here that even though it's a negative, you've got to do the exact same number. So if it's negative 5 down here, you've got to multiply it by negative 5 to make sure you get rid of that negative. Had you multiplied it by the opposite, which would have been a positive 5, you would have had actually a negative x, which would have given you one more step to do in the end, which isn't worth it. So always remember to multiply or divide by the exact number that's on the bottom there. Now let's try one more example. So for our question here, we've got 2 equals 14 plus n over 3. Now note, I've changed where I've put the unknown. This time I've written the equation over here and my answer here. That doesn't affect anything, right? It can be on either side. You just go at this the exact same way and dealing with your addition, subtraction first, then your division. So you can pause it here, give it a shot, and then we'll go through it in a couple seconds here. Okay, so like I said before, just like usual, the fact that this is there on the left side and this is on the right affects nothing. We're still going to start the exact same as we always have by looking at that addition first. Here we've got a positive 14, so the opposite of that is minusing 14. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So 2 minus 14 is going to give us 0 here. And 2 minus 14, or 14, is negative 12, equals, that crosses out, n over 3. Now we've got to do our division. So this is being divided here. The opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply our top by 3. And what we do to one side, we got to do to the other. So we're going to times that by 3. Well, 3 divided by 3 will cross out and just give us n. And 3 times negative 12 will be negative 36 is n. We can check our answer by plugging it in. So 2 equals 14 plus negative 36 over 3. Well, negative 36 divided by 3 is actually negative 12 plus negative 12, which when you look at it just becomes 2 equals 14 minus 12. 14 minus 12 is just 2, so 2 is 2. We've got our answer. So remember, it doesn't really matter which side the answer's on, whether it was that side or that side. You follow the same method, but you've got to make sure for questions like this that you're paying attention to that, okay? Don't just ignore your integers. You've got to make sure you're following along, because if you would have changed that to a positive 36, the answer actually wouldn't have been 2. It would have been a positive 26. So you've got to make sure you're paying attention to your integers in every question, okay? Other than that, we're done for today, so you can check out the assignment, and goodbye.